Medicare, Social Security, civil rights, protections for the disabled, prohibition on child labor, safe drinking water laws, clean air laws, seatbelt laws. Saved my life once, a seatbelt. I mean, all the things that progressive people have fought for. And it's been people on the campuses, it's been people in our churches, it's been people in our trade unions that have fought to bring our country forward. And every time we had a success, I walked in here today and somebody asked, what are we going to do about global warming? I wouldn't hear that at a Republican rally, that's for sure. every time we have a success, every time we push for any of these things, the voices of reaction, the conservatives, the most privileged in our society, push back. Medicare is created over the opposition of the most powerful insurance interests in the country. Safe drinking water and clean air laws were passed over the opposition of oil and gas and chemical companies. Food safety laws were passed over the strong opposition of agribusiness. On Social Security and minimum wage and workers' compensation and mine safety rules and laws were passed over the opposition of some of the most entrenched, powerful business interests in the country. And you think about that, you think of how we made progress in the last 100 years, and we're able to do that, again, because people of faith and people in their trade union movement and people on college campuses, young activists, fought to make all that happen. That's why you matter so much. That's why this year, when you knock on doors, when you go around your dorms, when you go out in the communities, and whether it's student housing off campus or you go into the communities in Clintonville and Bexley, knocking on doors, you're going to matter. You're going to change the direction of this state. And when we change the direction of Ohio, we change the direction of the United States of America. And that's what you're going to do. For a moment, I want to make a contrast. Forget the history for a moment, up to date, make the contrast to what's going on in Washington. Mary Jo talked about the way that they do things, the corruption, the culture of corruption. They see Republicans see Columbus as a piggy bank, state government as a piggy bank for their friends and their contractor buddies and their families. And in Washington, what people are doing in Washington is really a betrayal of middle-class values. The drug companies wrote the Medicare law. The oil industry dictates energy policy. The banks and the credit card companies wrote the bankruptcy bill. On issue after issue after issue, the most privileged, powerful interest groups are dictating what's happening in this country, so unlike the struggles of the last 100 years. And that's where you come in. And let me give you an example of what's happened on why it's increasingly harder for middle-class families to send their kids to college. Pell Grants have been stuck for years at $4,050. George Bush promised in his 2000 campaign, Mike DeWine mimicked him, made the same promise Mike DeWine always mimics George Bush, and said we raised it to $5,100. They've made no effort to do that. Student loan, as you know, student loan interest rates are higher. When I was in school 30 years ago, the financial aid package was 70% grants and 30% loans. And today they're almost the exact reverse of that as tuition goes up and up and up and up. And if we care, if people of my generation care not just about your generation, but care about the future of this country, it's so important that we provide the opportunity for all of you to get the education that you want to get. And when it goes down to this, Mike DeWine this summer chose another tax cut for the richest 5% of people in this country. In fact, this one tax cut would go to 800 Ohio families, 800 people only. And he turned his back on tuition tax credits, which would be used by 123,000 Ohio families. So he chose 800 of the wealthiest people who frankly don't really need the help, over 123,000 families who sit down at the kitchen table, put a pen to paper and try to figure out how they're going to budget, how they're going to pay their kids' education, and just so you don't have to be burdened with too heavy student loans when you graduate from Ohio State. So the mission is clear what you need to do. Your involvement as activists is so important. We need you out knocking on doors. There's 4 weeks and 4 days left. The next 32 days, you really, as I said, you can change Ohio and you can change the United States of America. I'm proud that so many of you came out. I'm proud that you came to see Luke, and maybe you also came because you really care about changing the country, because I know that's why you're here.